Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because today we're diving into something truly chilling. For those of us who've pulled a night shift, you know the quiet can be unsettling. Every creak, every shadow feels amplified. But sometimes it's more than just your imagination playing tricks. Today, I'm bringing you 3 disturbing, true night shift horror stories that will make you rethink working past midnight. Grab your coziest blanket, maybe a strong coffee, and get ready because these tales are going to stick with you. Let's jump right in with our first story, titled The Elevator to Nowhere. Alright, our first chilling account. The elevator to nowhere comes from a security guard named Mark, who worked the graveyard shift at a seemingly ordinary office building. It was a typical Tuesday night, quiet, just Mark and the hum of the HVAC system. Around 2 a.m., he was doing his rounds, checking doors and making sure everything was secure. He passed the main elevator bank on the ground floor when he heard it. A soft ding from an elevator arriving. This was unusual. No one else was supposed to be in the building. He watched as the doors slowly slid open. The elevator car was empty, but what caught his eye was the digital display above the doors. It showed the number 13. Mark blinked. He knew for a fact this building only had 12 floors. Confused, he peered inside the empty car, shining his flashlight into the corners. Nothing. He stepped back, figuring it was just a glitch in the old system. But then as he stood there, the doors began to close, and the display flickered from 13 back to G4 ground. Before he could process it, the display changed again, rapidly cycling through floors. 1, 2, 3. All the way up to 12, then it paused and settled on 13 again. The doors opened, still empty, now this time. A cold gust of wind seemed to sweep out from the car, even though all windows were sealed. Mark, a seasoned veteran who'd seen it all, felt a genuine shiver crawl up his spine. He quickly hit the door close button and watched as the elevator ascended to 13 and stayed there, doors closed, for the rest of his shift. He never reported it, fearing he'd be laughed at. But he never forgot the feeling of dread as he stared into that empty elevator car, knowing it had visited a floor that didn't exist. Now, if that didn't give you goosebumps, our next story certainly will. Get ready for the Silent Watcher. Our second story. The Silent Watcher takes us into the heart of a hospital, a place often filled with life and death, and sometimes things that defy explanation. This account comes from Sarah, a new nurse working her first few night shifts in an older wing of the hospital. It was known for being particularly quiet, mostly housing long-term recovery patients. One night, around 3 a.m., Sarah was charting at the nurse's station. The only sound was the distant beeping of monitors. She felt a strange prickling sensation on the back of her neck, like she was being watched. She slowly turned, expecting to see a colleague, or perhaps a patient wandering. Instead, standing at the very end of the long, dimly lit hallway was a figure. It was tall, slender, and appeared to be wearing an old-fashioned nurse's uniform, the kind with a cap and an apron. What truly unnerved Sarah was that the figure was completely still, facing her, but its face was obscured by shadow. She couldn't make out any features. Sarah froze, a knot forming in her stomach. "Can I help you?" she managed to call out, her voice barely a whisper in the echoing hall. The figure didn't move, didn't respond. It just stood there, watching. Sarah, trying to be brave, got up from her chair and took a step forward. "Are you lost?" she asked a little louder this time. Still nothing. The silence from the figure was deafening. Feeling an inexplicable fear, Sarah decided to call security. As she reached for the phone, she glanced back at the end of the hall. The figure was gone, vanished. There was no sound of footsteps, no door creaking open or shut. Sarah searched the hallway and nearby patient rooms, but found nothing. When security arrived, they found no trace of anyone either. Sarah continued to work at the hospital, but she always felt a sense of unease in that particular wing. She often felt those same watching eyes, especially during the deepest hours of the night. She learned from older nurses that there were stories of a nurse Amelia who tragically died in the hospital decades ago, always keeping her silent watch over the patients. Spooky, right? All right, brace yourselves for our final and perhaps most unsettling tale, the Phantom Caller. Our final story. The phantom caller comes from David, who worked solo as a late-night dispatcher for a taxi company in a small, quiet town. His job was mostly receiving calls and sending out cabs. It was usually pretty mundane. One particularly foggy night around 4 a.m., the phone rang. David answered with his usual XYZ cabs. "How can I help you?" On the other end, there was only static for a moment, then a very faint, raspy whisper. He strained to hear. It sounded like a woman's voice, barely audible, saying something he couldn't quite make out. "I'm sorry I didn't catch that," David said, adjusting his headset. The whisper came again, a little clearer this time, but still distorted by static. He managed to make out fragmented words. Help, stuck, road, forest. David's heart started to pound. This sounded like a legitimate emergency. "Ma'am, can you tell me your location? What's your name?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm, more static than a low, drawn-out moan. It wasn't a sound of pain, but something far more chilling, like deep sorrow. Then the line went dead. David, concerned, immediately tried to call back the number. It was a local number, but it just rang and rang, then went to a generic voicemail box that was full. He checked the caller ID again. He recognized the number. It belonged to an old woman named Mrs. Peterson, a regular customer who lived on the very edge of town, near a dense forest. David knew Mrs. Peterson was elderly and lived alone. He felt a surge of panic. He called the police, explaining the cryptic call. The police went to Mrs. Peterson's house. They found her safe and sound in her bed, deeply asleep. When they woke her, she was confused. She hadn't called anyone. Her phone was on her bedside table, and the last outgoing call had been to her daughter the previous evening. The police left, a little annoyed by what they considered a prank call, but David couldn't shake the feeling. Later that morning, as he was about to leave his shift, he heard on the local news about a car accident that had happened overnight. A woman, matching the vague description of Mrs. Peterson, had been found deceased in her car, crashed deep in the forest, not far from Mrs. Peterson's house. The time of death was estimated to be around 4 a.m., the kicker. The woman's cell phone was found next to her, completely shattered. But the last outgoing call logged on it was to XYZ Cabs, exactly when David received the phantom caller. David still gets shivers thinking about it. Was it a coincidence, or did he receive a call from beyond? And that, my friends, brings us to the end of our 3 disturbing night shift horror stories. I hope these tales gave you a good chill without losing any sleep tonight. It really makes you wonder what else is out there in the quiet hours, doesn't it? If you enjoyed these stories, please give this video a big thumbs up. Share it with a friend who loves a good scare, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more spine-tingling content. Let me know in the comments below which story freaked you out the most, or if you have any night shift stories of your own. Stay safe out there, especially if you're pulling a late one. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.